No, I think that's going a little too far. I don't think that might be a waste of resources.
I believe right now we're at a time and age where it's necessary.
Let's say the terrorists hate us for our freedoms, then they're winning. Because now we're no longer free if we're going to be subject to illegal searches and seizures. What would you say to those folks?
I think that's taking it a little extreme. It's not that you're not free, we're just being really safe.
Now, it's interesting to note that earlier this year, a bill was introduced to the Texas legislature that would actually bar full body scans and full body pat downs at airports. As you can imagine, the bill attracted much support and gained momentum, but was shot down as the State Department threatened to implement a no-fly zone across the entire state of Texas, should the bill pass. And now the TSA want their agents patting down, searching, scanning, and harassing American citizens at all levels of society, and not just at transportation hubs, but at major sporting events, in the streets, and on the highways across America. I'm Darren McBreen for INFOWARS Nightly News.
Thanks for that report, Darren. Now moving on with the rest of the news. Egypt renames its secret police Homeland Security. The Financial Times reports that Egypt has renamed its brutal and infamous secret police apparatus as, quote, Homeland Security. That's right, the same security force implicated in the imprisonment and torture of anti-Mubarak political activists has sought to give its much feared and loathed security state a makeover by rebranding it with the name of America's foremost post-9/11 federal agency. Quote, after initial moves to purge the security forces, attempts at systematic reform were halted, say analysts and political observers. Under the auspices of the Ministry of Interior, the 100,000-strong state security service has been renamed Homeland Security, and personnel moved around, the Financial Times reports yesterday. So the primary role of Egypt's secret police is to bug phone calls, spy on and harass presumptive candidates in Egypt's democratic elections, which of course are being halted by the ruling military junta still in charge of the country. And this secret police apparatus has been responsible in the past few days alone for the murder of dozens and the torture of thousands of Egyptian protesters over the course of the last 7 days. And as we know, just like its now Egyptian namesake, the US Department of Homeland Security has increasingly begun to take on its own secret police role within the United States, spying on protest groups and arresting political activists. The DHS's Federal Protective Service was captured on film last week, arresting photographers at an Occupy Wall Street event held in Portland. And this unit has also been used by Homeland Security to spy on anti-tax groups and arrest veterans for the crime of complaining to their local VA office. So it fits perfectly to have Egypt's secret police aspire to mimic their American counterparts. And indeed, the Egyptian authorities have pointed to the, quote, firm stance taken by US law enforcement in their treatment of Occupy Wall Street protesters to justify their brutal crackdown on pro-democracy demonstrators in Cairo. So again, as we've highlighted, it's no surprise that the likes of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, these humanitarian crusaders, have barely uttered a whimper of dissent against the brutal crackdown in Egypt because, of course, we know in 2010 alone, $1.3 billion in aid from the US was sent directly to the ruling military junta. So the arrests continue, the torture continues, and, of course, the execution of political activists continues in Egypt. And now their secret police has sought to give that some sense of legitimacy by renaming themselves Homeland Security. Should we be concerned? Now, the fallout from the MF Global financial scandal continues to worsen. We have an article out of Reuters today. Farm Belt rage over MF Global could chill markets. Quote, when the CME Group pledged $300 million of its own money to help former MF Global customers get their cash back faster, the exchange was likely thinking of customers like Kansas cattle rancher Tim Reitzker. Fed up and frustrated with his broker's collapse and what he sees as the CME's slow efforts to help him retrieve $30,000 in stranded capital, Reitzker says his faith in the futures industry has been shaken to the core. Quote, I would be hedging some feeder cattle right now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm leaving them exposed to the cash market, and I don't like that, Reitzker said. So as you can see, far from affecting people with, millions and billions of dollars stored away in this failed financial broker, this is directly affecting people, farmers who invested as little as $30,000. And of course, while the thousands of small-time customers like that had their money stolen by MF Global and these regulators that have stepped in afterwards, the big boys, the billionaire financiers like the Koch brothers, miraculously managed to completely empty their accounts weeks in advance. Unlike the Gerald Celentes of this world and the farmer who was mentioned in this Reuters article, unlike those people, the big boys got a heads up. And of course, we know that the initial report said that the customer funds had been sent to JP Morgan, who then denied that they had received them despite MF Global executives swearing by it. So the money's still missing. It's now over $1.2 billion. That figure keeps climbing every day. The big boys got out ahead of time because they got a warning, whereas the smaller investors got burned and are now being told they may get some of their money back. Most of them are being told they'll never see it again. So who is really to blame for the financial instability where confidence in the markets is undermined? Not, as Forbes magazine would suggest, Alex Jones and Gerald Celente. It's the criminals who stole the money in the first place. Computerized contact lens will keep you up to date with news and text, reports the Daily Mail. Quote, imagine catching up with your text, social networking, and perhaps the news without having to log onto a computer or even glance at a smartphone. Messages and images would simply appear in front of your eyes, generated by a computerized contact lens. Isn't it all so convenient? And this takes the term iPhone, EYE, to a whole new level. And just like your smartphone, this will be useful to any company or government agency as an implantable microchip. It's virtually the same thing. Imagine Big Brother not only being able to listen to your conversations, know your exact location, but also having the ability to see through your eyes. Again, very convenient. Now, we've all seen Minority Report, the slaves all required to have their irises scanned before they do anything, board a bus, take a train, enter a shopping mall. Now you'll be able to have your very own mark of the beast, making dirty cash and annoying credit cards a thing of the past. And, so long as it's marketed by Apple or some of the other hip technology firms as the latest new thing, the latest fashion accessory, all the fanboys will, as per usual, rush to consume it. Now, we've been talking about this transhumanist agenda for years and how they'd use it not through coercion, not through force, but by making it cool, convenient, and trendy. That's how they'd implement it. And the mindset of people who advocate this kind of brave new world is implicit in the following quote. Quote, augmenting our species through technology and genetic modification is the way we must go in the long term if we are ever to ascend to something greater than we are. We are not ready yet, though. We need to get rid of a lot of outdated ideas and morals first. And who said that? Aldous Huxley, some insidious eugenicist from the last century? No, it was a respondent to the Daily Mail article. There's literally a whole army of people out there who will not hesitate to hand over control of their bodies to a technocracy in the name of aspiring to some new warped definition of fashion or trendiness. Moving on, ClimateGate 2.0. Newly leaked emails from prominent global warming scientists reveal that even those who promote the man-made climate change thesis know that the science is being manipulated for political purposes. In an article for the London Telegraph, James Dellingpole writes, quote, 2 years after the ClimateGate scandal, a further batch of emails have been leaked onto the internet by a person or persons unknown. And as before, they show the scientists at the heart of the man-made global warming industry in a most unflattering light. Michael Mann, Phil Jones, Ben Santa, Tom Wigley, Kenneth Tremberth and Keith Briffer, all your favourite ClimateGate characters, are here once again, caught red-handed in a series of emails exaggerating the extent of anthropogenic global warming, while privately admitting to one another that the evidence is nowhere near as strong as they'd like it to be. In other words, what these emails confirm is that the great man-made global warming scare is not about science, but about political activism. And you can read the newly leaked emails at the London Telegraph article by Dellingpole, which is linked on PrisonPlanet.com. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. I've been your host, Paul Joseph Watson. Aaron Dykes is back in the control center tomorrow, and then Alex Jones will be back on Friday. Again, we urge you to subscribe at PrisonPlanet.tv if you're watching this on YouTube to get access to all the multimedia content and support the InfoWar. That's it for tonight. We'll see you back InfoWars Nightly News with the next edition. Thank you.